little biscuit cake thing with some food.
You go for it. We are now live, Rebels, Rebel Squad. Talk amongst yourselves for a moment while I just check. Sorry, and mute me so that I don't get feedback. Bear with. Crack on, as you were.
I'm wondering what flavour crisps you're eating, Paul, or is it biscuits?
It's a gluten. Let's get to the important stuff. Come on,
gluten-free food bar.
It's food with me, Jamie. Sorry, I'm a big foodie.
But very nice.
Motivated.
Like straight
on a flavour vibe, because you can tell a lot from a person's choice of crisp flavour. What
do you reckon?
What's your go-to?
My go-to is salt and vinegar.
Oh, wow.
Did you on that one, Nadia?
Sure.
I'm a massive cheese and onion fan. And then I would end well into like the Doritos chili heat wave kind of camp as well, depending on what kind of mood I'm in.
I think it depends on the crisp for me.
Cheese and onion is great in the moment. Terrible about
not in the morning when you've been tasting it all night. Yeah. We could talk about the important things on these Rebel Squad lives, don't we?
We do.
A favourite flavour crisp.
So, welcome to this part of the Master Rebel team. Welcome to anyone who's watching us live now. Welcome if you're watching us in the future. Hello from the past. We are coming at you through the mode of time travel. And we are going to talk about another important topic after we've moved on from crisps and whatnot. So tonight's topic is going to be what happens. Well, it's twofold, actually. First of all, it's what happens when you are unapologetically your full self. What can some of the potential consequences be of that, right? But then the flip side of that, and I've been thinking about this for a few days, the flip side of that is, is there a difference between being your full unapologetic self and actually just being an arsehole, right? So when I say that, what I mean is when you are, you're going out there sort of saying, I'm being my full self, but actually you are sort of doing that. And the reason I'm thinking this is I've got people from our past who have said things like, I'm too old to change now. I am the way I am. Take me or leave me. I'm not going to modify myself for you, right? So I think that's a completely different vibe than being authentic and unapologetically yourself. So that is the topic in the mix, that part of it, but also what are the consequences of being your unapologetic self. Now I'm going to start us off with some input that we had from one of our other Master Rebels before the live today around what the difference is between unapologetic genuine self and being an arsehole. So what Tracy has said is the difference is about the balance. It's between the balance between, or difference between, and I'm paraphrasing, difference between arrogance and confidence. So for example, being, your unapologetic self doesn't mean that you can't read a situation and therefore modify accordingly. So it's not about stifling who you are, but it's about being sensitive to other people. So for example, if you are with someone who's very introverted, who finds loud, brash people difficult, you may bring it in a little bit for their sort of sensitivity and comfort levels, but it's not about changing who you are. Or another example, Tracy said she swears like a trooper, but she modifies that in certain environments. So for example, at work, but her personality is still authentic. She's still having a laugh. She's still being true to herself. Whereas the being an arsehole version, and we need a better term than this, is normally where people, you don't care about people's feelings over and above your own. And she said that you can be your unapologetic self, but also be aware of what others feel and think, whereas an arsehole is arrogant and doesn't have that balance or want and desire to consider others. So have you guys encountered people that are perhaps the latter category?
Well, I can speak from like personal experience on like this this question and on this topic, right? And in a nutshell, by being your unapologetic self, you annoy people, you upset people, and you also lose people, right? So I can speak from personal experience, right? So what I do and how I am, people know fully well what I am and how I am. Now, there's a big difference, between using your unapologetic self and what you're about in a positive and a negative way. So if you use it in a positive way, so let's say, for instance, if I was using kind of me being outspoken, authoritative, right, I stand up for my beliefs and stuff like that, right? If I was using that in a controlling, manipulative, like coercive kind of way, then of course I'm an arsehole. But what I do and who I am, like, I use those qualities to stand up for things that are an injustice, that need to be spoken about. Like, I speak up for people that can't speak, so who haven't in some shape, way, or form got a voice. And what I found is people will be attracted to that, right? So they will say what they want and they will think they want something, right? So they will be attracted to, oh yeah, listen, a guy that stands up for his beliefs, he's straight down the line, do you know what I mean? And he's, he's outspoken, do you know what I mean? He's on a level. And then after a little while, what people deem to be something that they want, or they deem to be like what's attractive and is someone's quality, soon becomes an annoyance. Like, this is what we're battling with as well. So you haven't changed as a person. It's just their kind of preconceived idea of kind of what they want. But people as well, because on the other side of the coin, people are getting like offended very, very easily. And like, people are listen, just the smallest like element of kind of offense or dislike, and they blow it up out of all proportions. How many people have you heard where they'll say, oh, do you know what? So and so, they're straight down the line. They say it how it is. Oh, it's a lovely quality. Oh, it's amazing. And they could say it to 10 people and they'll be right behind them. But as soon as you stay exactly the same person and do exactly the same to them, they're like, oh, how out of order are you? Oh, you're too forward. You know what I mean? You're too aggressive. You're too, just literally because you've done something that connects with them, but they'll be fully behind it if it's for other people. So we're dealing with a real mishmash of our authentic self being positive or negative, or also how people take it as well, because there's so much that we give and we are who we are, and people think that it's lovely at first, but then all of a sudden their mind changes, or they don't think it don't quite match up to what they kind of thought before. And they change their mind about it. So there's a real mishmash, and it goes from both sides. But there is a massive difference between using your qualities in a positive way or a negative way of being an arsehole. But who you're doing it to, also, it kind of depends on how they take it and what their decisions are.
Yeah. Love that.
Yeah.
Nadia, your thoughts?
Yeah, I've had people mostly gravitate towards me as I've become more authentic. Well, the right sort of people gravitate towards me. But I can totally get on what James says about having to lose people as well, because I've lost a couple of friends just by sort of speaking the truth. And I'm quite direct at times when I need to be, but I'm not arrogant in that. I'm just assertive, and I know my own mind, and if I've got a viewpoint, I have to express it. I can't not. It's just something in me.
Toxic to hold it in sometimes, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. And I think people need to hear some things sometimes. And so I've lost friends along the way, but the friends who've stayed, they're all for me being my authentic self, and I think it's great that I'm a work in practice, and that I'm doing that on a daily basis, and being grateful for what I've got. So I think a lot of it as well is about respecting other people's opinions and respecting other people's feelings. That makes you not the arsehole bit. I can be totally myself and be direct or straight down the line, like Jamie says, and still get positive feedback if I've done that in a positive way, by respecting other people's feelings in amongst my own authenticity.
Oh, we've got Phil joining us now.
Oh, great stuff. Yeah,
that all makes a lot of sense, actually, Nadia. It's,
yeah.
You know, I can definitely see that, you know, that's happening to you. That sort of gravitating.
Do you know the friends that Nadia has lost because she said that I've told the truth, right? If she told them truths, right? If she's got every right to say it and she's got good reason and good cause, that then takes away the element of you being an arsehole, if you know what I mean. But those truths that she said and she told, if she had told them to anyone else, those friends that she lost, they would have been behind her and they would have said, well done. Yeah, you know, like, you do you speak the truth.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, you had every right to say that. But then when it comes back to them and it's told to them, that's when the whole game changes.
Yeah. That's exactly what happened, Jamie. Yeah, that's exactly what happened. So,
welcome, Phil.
Hi,
Phil.
Don't
know if you're managing to catch onto the gist with this. We'll go a little longer and see what you can pick up along the way.
Yeah, keep me guessing. That's great.
We're talking about crisps, Phil. That's what we're talking about.
It's not crisp flavors, and Jamie's absolutely sure that you can tell a lot from a person based on the flavor of crisps that they're into. So I don't know what it means that I am into flamingo flavor. I don't know what that, you know,
flamingo flavor.
I tried to pick something really obscure, and that's the first thing I could
Miserably.
Skips just sprang to mind then.
Oh gosh.
Sorry, Emma, just took the conversation down a completely different direction there.
But Mr. Harris, what's your thoughts on this topic?
I think it's a really interesting topic and potentially controversial, because I think we all have a view of what being unapologetically ourselves is through our own filters. So it's difficult to define it because it's what it means to us rather than there's a generic term for what being unapologetically yourself. But what I'm interested in is the arsehole bit. And there's a series of A's here that were coming to me. So I think for me, being unapologetically yourself doesn't excuse you to be unaware. So the way that Jamie talked about it, there are times that if you're if there's a line here of arrogance on one side and genuine authenticity on the other, you know, the bit in the middle to me, the one that links the two, is awareness. It's just being aware of who you're speaking to, what the setting is. So there are times, just as Jamie said, when if you want to really make a point and almost shock people into waking up from something, you might edge down the arrogance. And look, this is how it is, because you're trying to wake people up. But then there are times that's not going to work, and you've got to gently ease it back off again, because you've got to be aware of your audience, if you like. And your audience can be one person or a collection of people. So what I see as being an arsehole is when somebody genuinely has no awareness of what they're saying, who they're saying it to, or the context. They're just spouting opinion. And that, to me, is not being unapologetically yourself. It's just being an arse. So to me, a genuine unapologetic self, and what I was thinking about it for me anyway, just let me own this. It's not saying this is how it is for everybody, but being my unapologetic self, there's an extra word that I would put in, is my best self. I want to be unapologetically my best self. I don't want to be unapologetically my worst self, because that's really easy. I can be an arse very easily. We can all be arseholes. Really, that is really, really easy. But being the best version of yourself is what's difficult. And sometimes being the best version of ourselves is difficult with other people as well. So to me, it's not just about being unapologetically yourself. It's about, for me anyway, it's about being your best self, trying to be your best self, which sometimes means letting things out that you haven't said before because it's really important to you. But then the filter as it comes out is the awareness of your surroundings and who you're saying it to. And you can't just say something and not care about how it lands. Because, and again, I really like what Jamie was saying about there are times when you do push it because you're aware you're trying to create a reaction, or you're trying to make change, or you're trying to get people to wake up. Then you might have to push it a little harder, but you're doing that with an awareness of it's intentional. I think many people who are arseholes are almost unintentional, just don't know they're doing it almost. They just, because they've got no awareness. Yeah. So that's for me anyway. It's the link between not being an arsehole and unapologetically yourself is awareness. What you're saying, saying it to, the timing of it. You know, it's a bit like, people can be really crass. If someone's just lost somebody and you'll say, yeah, well, I don't believe in life after death. Load of bollocks. That's just being a knob, because that's not being aware that.
I love the fact that I've managed to get you to swear today, Paul. It's really fun.
Awareness and knob. I mean, arrogance and knob. They're gentle swear words. You know what I mean? So that to me is a total lack of awareness when somebody who doesn't believe in life after death, which is absolutely fine. But when a member of their family or their friends say, "I've just lost my mum and dad," and I hope they're in heaven. Well, that's a load of bollocks, that is. That to me is just arrogance and being an arsehole, even if that's really what you believe. It's not right to deliver it across that way. So certainly being a part of Rebels and Rule Breakers for me and being part of the Rebel Yell Club is absolutely not about being an arsehole.
Yeah.
About being a conscious.
Kind of go more towards the arrogant side of things. There's still like a differentiation of, am I doing this for the right reasons with a good intent and with a good heart? Or am I just doing it purely for my own gain and my own benefit? Because you're dealing with, like, listen, if you're dealing with an addict, let's say, and some real harsh home truths have to be said, and you are throwing out truth after truth, but you literally have to do it for their own benefit. You know what I mean? And you're kind of going down the arrogant route. But you're doing it with awareness, aren't you? But you are aware of it, and that's the thing. That's the big difference. But it's also, no matter what you do, no matter whether you go up one end, which is authenticity, whether you go up to the arrogance, whether you stay in the middle, where you're kind of flitting to and fro. Do you know what? You'll be damned if you do and damned if you don't with people as well. Do you know what I mean? And I will pull up the example that Emma has used just recently, that she used in like a presentation class. Like my TEDx talk that I did, so many people are saying, listen, I can see this guy speaks with a lot of passion. I can see this guy speaks with a lot of passion. But then other comments on there is, why is this guy so angry? Why is this guy so angry?
Okay.
So no matter what you do, no matter how you do it, and for what reason, like I can be a heartbroken uncle up on stage, right? And I'm kind of getting all this emotion out, and I'm wearing my heart on my sleeve, and I'm trying to help other people out, and I literally, look, I'm leaving it all on stage there, and people can still say, well, why is this guy so angry?
It's raw. People are uncomfortable with raw.
So you're kind of damned if you do and damned if you don't anyway.
Yeah, and I think it's because you can't control, obviously, how other people react and what triggers are being, what buttons are being pressed, and whatever their train of thought might be.
There's also that
you can't control that.
What you do and how you do it and for why you do it. That's right. Where, ultimately it kind of comes back to its essence. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So people can take it how they want, but that's what I'm saying, is even you being your unapologetic self, for the right reasons. Do you know what I mean? Right, you do it with the best intentions, with a good heart, and people still kind of say, nah, listen, you're an arsehole.
People kind of almost kind of predetermine how they want to respond as well. It kind of goes, they'll see something, they'll hear something, and it's kind of well, I've already decided I'm against that. I'm not prepared to listen to anything that's being said. I've already decided that is against my view. Therefore, whoever is talking about something that goes against what I believe, I disagree with them. They're an arsehole. I will blank them. I will hate them. I will kind of go thumbs down, whatever it is. I mean, and that's just unfortunately the way they are.
Or even because it comes from a certain person, even if it's valid, they will already have
made their mind up.
That they're not going to be on board with that.
And you can see it in politics all the time. I mean, particularly kind of if you're of one persuasion or the other. I mean, no matter what a Conservative MP says versus a Labour MP, they can say exactly the same thing. But just because of the colour of the flag that they fly, you will disagree with one of them and agree with the other. And I mean, it's kind of it's the power of personal brand as well. But also kind of bigotry as well, which seems to be kind of rife.
Sorry, just very quickly, something that really riles me up as well is what I call the 200 to 1 kind of scenario. Now, if it's a bet and it comes in, your quid's in, but 200 to 1 can be a negative as well, in as much as, like, you could do kind of 200 good things for someone and you are like the best thing since sliced bread. And as soon as there's one thing that doesn't kind of sit well with them, then you're the worst person in the world. It's like, do you know what I mean? So it's like, you could do things as well 200 times with all the best intentions, with all the amazing reasons, you know, and doing it in a positive and productive way. But yet there's that one time that you might not do it, and that is what's thrown against you. Like, that is what's held against you, and that's what people think of you. You all of a sudden become an arsehole, even though you've had 200 kind of, you know, examples of where you haven't been as well.
Yeah.
Well, I've certainly experienced.
You shag one sheep.
Pardon?
You shag one sheep.
Just that one, and you're tarred forever, Phil.
Yeah.
It's just one mistake, Your Honour. Honest. Just the one time. Anyway. Trust you, Phil. So, you know, I've definitely experienced some of the things that we're talking about here. One of the things that's, I think, is perhaps a driver for people being unapologetic self versus arsehole is that actually for some people being, you know, we all know here, we're all on this team because we have a certain ethos around how we grow as people and the commitment we've made to continually trying to be our best selves and to raise the bar of what that best self is as well. And that is not easy, is it? And any one of you here I know will absolutely agree with you. It is not easy to commit to that. And there are times where you do it really well and times where you don't do it so well. And times where, you know, you maybe slip into arsehole mode. But you look back and you reflect and you go, okay, maybe I needed to do something different there. Maybe this experience has taught me something that means I can apply, you know, different strategies. Now, if you are of the mind where, you know, well, this is how I am, you've got to put up with it whether you like it or not, I'm not going to change for anybody sort of attitude, you know, with almost that begrudging sense of you know, I will carry on being, you know, it's essentially, it's relieving yourself of the responsibility of the impact that you have on other people. And I think the reason probably for that is because it takes a lot of effort to actually change, but also it's really hard to look in the mirror and go, I'm being a bit of an idiot right now, or I made a mistake there, or I need to go and say sorry to that person because I didn't behave in the right way, or I was reacting out of pain and anger, or, you know, I took it out on them when I shouldn't do. It's hard work to do that. So how much easier is it to say, actually, I am the way I am, I'm too old to change, put up with me or don't, you know. Now, you know, as I say, the flip side of that,
it's the get out jail free card. It's the
yes, it is that.
Right.
It's totally get out jail free.
Admit that they're wrong. People don't want to hold their hands up. You know, as the great guru Ronan Keating once said, listen, sorry seems to be the hardest word. Do you know what I mean? So it's like it's like it's true, and people don't want to admit it, because once they admit it, once they have to admit something, or they do admit something, their whole belief system kind of comes crashing down, and they realize that everything that they believed in, or everything they agreed with, or everything they done in some shape, way, or form has to change. Like behavior has to change. Like you have to keep up, and not just do it once. You realize that you've got to consistently do it. So people are not listen, they're not interested in that. They're not interested in the work that's needed to get to where it is they want to get to, right? They're not interested in the change. So yeah, it's just so much easier to just say, well, that's me. Listen, you can't teach an old dog new tricks, and a leopard never changes its spots, and all this go. And yeah, I'll just stay as I am. Take me or leave me. Out of stubbornness and arrogance and ignorance, and you know, and anything else you want to put in there.
Right, can I just redirect the conversation slightly? So
please do. I
think what was interesting is we've all had this conversation about, you know, what's it like to be an arsehole, and what does that look like, what does that sound like, and how does that manifest, and all that sort of jazz. But going back to your original question, which was the first part of the question, is what does it mean to be your unapologetic self, rather than how do we spot the difference between that and an arsehole, which I think we're all clear on now. The two phrases just came to me about what does being unapologetically yourself mean, and this phrase just came to me, is the difference between following the crowd and following your soul. There's so much pressure on all of us all of the time to comply, to follow the crowd, to follow the thinking, and as soon as you step outside of that, whether it's vaccines or parties or whatever it might be, there's an immediate reaction to that. And I think one of the scary things about being unapologetically yourself is the recognition that, you know, at some point you're probably going to have to step outside of the crowd and follow your soul instead, what's really important to you. And I think one of the things about this group is we should be encouraging people to know that, yes, it's scary at times to step outside of the crowd, or to not agree with a family member, or to even to go against them, or to challenge people. But if your soul, your inner voice is telling you, it's far harder over a lifetime to keep ignoring it.
Yeah.
There's a point in everyone's life when that soul's going to come out. It's going to come out, and it can come out in an angry way if we've suppressed it for a long, long time in total frustration. So I think there's something quite beautiful actually about recognizing that if your soul is speaking to you and saying, I just got to say this, or I've got to be this person, or I've got to do it different, that's not the same as my friends, or it's not the same as my family. We're here to support that process of allowing that to come through. The arseholes are going to be the arseholes. We're not going to be able to change them particularly. You know, you can't, somebody who's arrogant, you can very rarely convince them they're not.
Yeah.
Because that's what arrogance is. It's an unawareness of I'm being arrogant. Whereas I think what I'd like to see and encourage people to do is, it's a more gentle process, but it's not about, when you follow your soul, it's not about damaging others. It's about enhancing yourself, about growing yourself as opposed to damaging somebody else. So, and as Jamie said, it's a bit like your intentions. You know, there is this phrase, if your intentions are good, you can't be wrong. Well, if your intention is about self and not about harming somebody else, then it cannot be wrong. If you're just trying to grow yourself in an authentic and maybe gentle way at times, that's not going to harm somebody else, then the soul will flourish. But if we want to start then saying, well, I'm going to be who I am, I'm not going to tell who you the heck you should be, that's just gone straight back down the arrogance, arsehole route. That will make sense. So I just think
it does.
Follow the crowd or follow the soul. Take your choice.
It does. That's absolutely perfect. And actually it sort of bridges us back to the first part of my sort of query, I guess, for this topic of discussion is what happens when you are your unapologetic self. So I know I have experienced, and I think Nadia almost alluded to before, that when the more authentic you become, the more yourself you become, the more true to who you want to be you become, if that makes sense, the more people will gravitate towards you, the right kind of people, as Nadia said. However, what also happens as a consequence is some people are repelled by that. Jamie also talked about this earlier on in the discussion. So I have certainly in very recent times experienced situations where everything I am and everything I am becoming has deeply jarred with people. And hello, 1980s calling was a really old-fashioned ringtone. Whose phone is that? So that is. So it really jars with people. So when you start evolving, essentially what happens is your vibration starts to increase, doesn't it? And if you are not at the same vibration as some people around you, then their vibration is gonna sort of sing out of tune with it, and that's uncomfortable. That feels on some subconscious soul cellular level or something. It feels uncomfortable for people, so they're going to naturally move away from that discomfort. Now, what then you have to really accept, if you are on this journey to become your unapologetic self, is that is going to happen. Now, the gain is that other people will come into your life who understand your vibration, but it can be extremely painful, and it can make you question whether that evolution is worth it, or whether you're evolving in the right way, because you know it's frightening. It's hurtful when people leave your life. It's hurtful when people say you are this, you are that, and you have to accept that some people will see you in a certain way through their, like, and Paul said before, through their own filters. So they may think you're being an arsehole, but actually you are feeling like you followed your soul, and you are being your own, you know, individual self. So how do you deal with that? See, Phil, you're into this conversation now, and I
know, but I kind of use the expression about kind of your harmonics, and you may remember kind of the kind of on TV where you've seen kind of the round screen with kind of the oscilloscope. where you'll see kind of the wave. And so when people are trying to dial in that oscilloscope and kind of you've got multiple lines that are all out of sequence, and eventually the lines kind of merge and you get one strong harmonious line. I mean, so that is almost kind of like your friendship circle. You've got kind of visually the circle of the oscilloscope, but you've also got those lines, and those lines will kind of fade in and fade out. And so at some point there'll be a sweet spot where the people that you're dealing with, the people that you socialize with, network with, whatever, you'll all be in harmony. And so when you are in harmony, the line is so much stronger and everybody's on the same kind of journey together. But you'll accept that some people will be kind of, they will look the same. The fluctuations of the harmonics will appear to be the same, but they'll just be out of step with you, either kind of in front or behind. And it's kind of again, you can agree to disagree.
That's beautiful. I love the way you've put that. And it reminds me of, it's like if you go to a family do or a certain social situation, and you can, it feels uncomfortable because people are on different, wavelengths, and so sometimes you just have to bumble your way through that, don't you, and get out of it. And we naturally know what we want to avoid and what we want to get towards.
I think, Phil, that was awesome.
It
was. I think the way of describing it as, because we can talk about vibration, but most of us get the music idea, and I think that idea of or an orchestra or something that's out of tune, then it gradually gets itself into tune. But I think that, and what you've just described, Emma, I can think of times in my own family when I've either from a financial perspective, I've been in a different place with different values, or from a faith-based perspective, I'm in different values. And you're sitting there and you're thinking, this is just not making music here, using your metaphor. It's just jarring. And then you move away from it with people that you do play, I'm pushing the metaphor, but play a similar tune, and it sounds cool and it feels nice. And I think what's nice about what you said, it's just about recognizing and accepting that, not fighting against it, just recognizing frequencies will come and they will go. And I think that's a really nice way of putting it. I think, and hopefully that will help people listening, is that don't worry about it. There's times when it's going to jar, it's not going to make music. There's other times that it will. And the other thing I was going to say as well is that I found over my life, sticking with your metaphor, Phil, the tune changes. So at one stage there was a group that you will resonate with, and you suddenly find that for whatever reason your tune changes as you're growing and back into your unapologetic self, and you meet another tribe where the tune sounds okay again. It's a great metaphor. I really like that metaphor. Whether it's an orchestra or a band or something where you just get together and create great music, and there's other times that you just don't, and the band almost find your tribe.
It is a great metaphor. I'm going to steal it and use it as my own.
people get sad though. People get upset when the music isn't going their way. Right. And that's what we've got to deal with, and that's what we've that's what we ourselves have got to acknowledge, that even we can't play the same instrument as everyone else. We can't play the same music. Listen, there's so many genres of music out there that each one of us has a different genre of music even. So it's we get so caught up that in some shape, way or form, that someone not liking our authentic self is like it's like a rejection. But we have to start looking at it as a redirection, to something else, to something bigger and better, and something that's more beneficial to us. But within our human nature, when someone doesn't like our music, when someone doesn't like the tune that we're playing, then we really get caught up in that, because from my own personal point of view, and this is listen, let's bring a real life kind of metaphor to it, that listen, I've got involved in relationships where females have seen me as this outspoken person, this big strong person that's carrying a fight and fighting a fight for other people and doing good for others, and then after a short amount of time they realize that I need help as well, that I need reassurance, and that I'm not as strong as what I but not that I pretend to be, but that I'm not as strong as what they thought. So they've then got other ideas, and it's a case of the relationship has ended. So that was a big thing of a tune not being played together. But of course, I felt upset that relationship then ended. Do you know what I mean? And it takes a little bit of time to recover. But you know what? It's something that I'm working with, and something that I'm in development with. That if that does happen, then it's well, depending on who it is, it'll be it'll be a less severe break. But yeah, we've got to kind of work on breaking that bond that we get, you know, that we get so impacted by a tune not being played to our liking.
It's when you talk about relationships, this is something that I find really interesting, because I think we are taught, I love this tangent as well, by the way, we are taught, I think, through fairy tales, movies, etc., that relationships are meant to be all, you know, it's meant to be hearts and flowers and romance and, you know, living together happily ever after and all of that stuff. But actually my view of relationships is that it's an incredible opportunity, and maybe even the purpose of relationships of any kind is that it allows us to develop, it allows us to look at ourselves on a really deep level if we are prepared to do so. And the most successful relationships, again, of any kind, are those where both parties are learning from each other and learning about themselves by looking in the mirror that is that other person, and really, you know, pushing the boundaries of your patience, of your empathy, of your strength, your vulnerability, you know, your many other things. I think, you know, again, if you are in a relationship where you can be your unapologetic self, I think that is probably because that person is doing that for themselves too, and is accepting everything you are and loving you as unconditionally as possible, which is not easy, because of everything you are, not in spite of everything you are.
I would agree with that and say that I'm lucky enough to sort of be in that position. And I was sort of I felt a bit sad earlier for Jamie as well, when he was talking about losing people and stuff through this out of tune music and stuff, because I think I've reached a point where the people I've got in my life now, they're there to sort of stay, I think, and I've already siphoned out people who aren't on my vibe and who don't get my energy and who aren't wanting to progress and learn and develop. But, you know, so I'm sort of loved unconditionally, you know, regardless of anything, gender or anything else that might be, you know, might jar with certain other people. So I'm really lucky in that. I just wanted to say that it's not all about losing people. Sometimes you can get to that point where you're saying and be on the vibe with the person that you're with, and it is a mirror thing, but it's also a mirror. Hold your mirror up to yourself, your own mirror up to yourself. Don't always do it through another person.
Just another little musical metaphor came to me, just taking Phil's you know, the waves about waves. Again, to me, a way to describe being unapologetically yourself is, if you know about music, and most music has a stave, you know, the notes of a stave. If anyone sings or plays music, you have a stave. And often if you try and play notes outside of that, they can often sound really high or really low. And I think being unapologetically yourself is being prepared to play notes outside the stave. It's okay to go outside the stave. It's you know, you haven't got to be confined by the whatever it is, 8, 9, 10 notes, whatever it is in the middle, because it will still chime, but it's just what people expect.
It's not only okay, it's absolutely necessary.
And it can actually enhance the music. Again, pushing this metaphor, enhance the music. It's where you grow, you know, whether you think, if you're a singer, you can only reach a high G, but then you suddenly find you can reach a high A, and, you know, it's that constant growth, isn't it? And we tend to look at life as if it's like this 5, 6 note stave, but it's not. There's all this color around it that we need to explore who we are. I think, you know, when Jamie said about losing people, I think, I mean, I'm lucky. I can't think of anyone I've lost in my life by me being authentic, or has moved away because of what I'm doing. But I think sometimes when you lose others, you end up finding yourself. And that's almost the journey that Jamie was talking about. You know, yes, he's lost some people, but he's finding himself more in that process. Realizing what I need to be like, or, you know, what I want to be. So, you know, in my little world, there is no bad, there's only good. So all of this, even meeting arseholes, has a purpose.
Oh yeah, you can always learn off of an arsehole.
Exactly.
And it kind of maybe staying on the musical vibe as well. It's like, listen, we all have our favourite genres of music, but like you saying, like, don't be afraid to kind of try, higher note or a lower note. Do you know what I mean?
Exactly.
Go inside your comfort
Or
zone.
different style of music, different genre.
Don't be afraid to listen to another genre of music as well, because like hip hop being like my favorite genre of music, it's like I've heard some beautiful like hip hop tunes played classically. Do you know what I mean, on a violin? Do you know what I mean? So it's like, yeah, you can find music anywhere that kind of connects and resonates with the music that you love. In many other different situations and circumstances, in many other different people. So yeah, just
what a thing you have gifted us with, Phil.
But you don't have to conform either, do you? That's the thing. I mean, so it's kind of, again, on that kind of musical metaphor. I mean, an opera singer will kind of potentially start off kind of as a, they will start off as kind of as a tenor. They will, as they mature and their voice changes, they will sing in a different range. I mean, that's just what happens. I mean, so yeah,
you have to evolve, don't you? You have to change.
That's happened to me over the years. Singing in bands, my range has increased, and I notice when I'm not in a band or I've not practiced for a long time, my range decreases, and that's a metaphor for life in itself, isn't it? That the more you exercise these muscles, these resilience muscles, these kind of growth parts of ourselves, the stronger you get, the bigger your range gets, and my voice has completely changed since I started singing in my 20s. I can sing things now that I would never have been able to tackle before, and that's the beauty of going through painful, uncomfortable stuff.
It's interesting.
Hopefully you sing more beautifully, you sing more, with more range and
you sing more authentically,
music, isn't it? Because music is all about vibration. That's what it is. It's music, vibration in our ears and our throat. The last thing I was just going to say on this sort of what is being unapologetic yourself, listening to you all now, another word's just come to me, which is the difference between this being an arsehole and being authentically and unapologetically ourselves. Is it openness? Is it the willing to be open to new growth for ourselves, to listen to people, to not shut people down? Whereas at the other end of I know we're overusing this word, but the arsehole end, it's often very closed, and that's it. My view.
I think you're right.
That's the thing, isn't it? You get a lot of kind of bigots, don't you? They've got an opinion, they're going to stick to the opinion, they're not prepared to listen. I'll go into kind of a group situation or sort of a conversation, and there'll be people there that I might not agree with, but I will kind of I'm prepared to listen to you.
Exactly.
I might not agree with your view, and I might kind of firmly kind of disbelieve in your view, but I'm prepared to listen. I'm prepared to take it on board. I'm prepared to consider it. I'm prepared to kind of mull it over. It may not change who I am, but I mean, at least I demonstrate to them that I've got kind of morally kind of far sort of I won't say superior, but I've got in on the basis of kind of openness and sort of willingness. I've gone in. I'm prepared to listen. I'm prepared to learn. I'm prepared to consider. Even at all of that, I still might disagree with them, and that's fine. I mean, that's kind of my belief system, and I'll stick with what I believe in. But actually, if they might have said something, again, it goes back to that point about politicians. If you listen to politicians and forget the colour of the flag that they're flying, there are some people in certain parties that actually say things that you think, that is really good. I mean, just next time listen to a politician without thinking that it's kind of, it's some Etonian kind of tosser, or it's kind of somebody from kind of that's come from down to pit, and therefore they don't know anything, they're not educated. I mean, no, forget all of that. If you can try and listen to them in a neutral ear, you'll be surprised kind of which one actually kind of speaks the truth,
and that grows,
resonates with you,
and that grows us. That's what this is for me about being authentic. It's you can grow your authenticity by listening to others rather than shutting them down. You can be more of who you are by listening to more of who others are, and it's that ability, just that unwillingness to listen to other people or consider other people's views, that just shuts everybody down. And I think we could all be more authentic if we were just willing to listen a bit more rather than just talking at people.
Yeah, also, do you know, like the element of like speaking and listening as well, like you've still got to be massively on guard, because I think you've most probably got to use like the 200 to 1 analogy, most probably listen to 200 politicians to find one good one. And it's like, you have to look at the value of words, and it's like their actions need to back up their words as well, because words can be given left, right and centre, and people can say whatever it is, they can talk a very, very good game. But do you know what I mean?
Dating's a lot like this as well, actually.
It's what?
Dating is a lot like this as well, 200 to 1.
Massively, yeah, for what they say and then what they do. Do you know what I mean? it's two completely different things. And it's like, you know, often I'll say in kind of talks that I do, look, this may sound silly coming from a professional public speaker, but talk is cheap. Do you know what I mean? Listen, your actions will always speak louder than your words. So it's like, you have to be very, very careful of what people are saying. You have to know who to give your time to, because if you know that you're not going to get anything from anyone, listen, you're not being an arsehole by guarding yourself and by valuing your time, by valuing your mindset, by valuing listen, your day, by
protecting your energy,
by saying, listen, I'm really not going to listen to you, because listen, you have that right as well. But a lot of people might turn around and say, well, look, you're being an arsehole for not listening to them. Do you know what I mean? But you have to then gauge, because it's like a step-by-step process. Do you know what I mean? It's like you have to, first see who you deem to be of value, and is this going to benefit me, right? And is this going to help me? And is this going to be beneficial? Is it going to be positive? Also, what they're saying then, can they back it up with words, or are they just literally words? And it's like, you know, for me, that's it's you know, the actions will always kind of outweigh the words from my point of view. And that's why I'll only ever speak about stuff that I can show evidence for, and what I've done, and kind of how I've done it. And so that's where the power is as well.
Can I ask a question? I don't know how long you wanted us to talk here, Emma, but I'm just curious to know about to do with this trying to be unapologetic selves, and is it growing? Are more and more people doing that? And just linking with what Jamie's just said about, you know, even thinking of politics at the moment, do you think globally, how can I put it, authenticity antennae, if you like, is growing? You know, people are starting to really be able to pick up what Jamie's just said when someone's saying something, but instinctively almost we know they're talking bollocks.
This is so weird, Paul. The synchronicity of this is immense, right? Because in answer to your question, short answer, yes, I do think that is happening. And Nadia actually put a great post in Rebel Yell Club earlier, didn't you, Nadia, about this very thing, weirdly. And the synchronicity of that is, so I went to my brother's salon today, and we were talking about all sorts of things, and he was talking about someone that's kind of like exited his inner circle, I guess, and that there is a risk that person is potentially going to badmouth and so on, and make up all sorts of nonsense to other people. And I said, you know, the thing is, David, people know at a subconscious level when someone is talking crap, particularly if they know you as an individual and they know how deeply authentic you are. Their spidey sense will tell them. Whether they acknowledge it consciously or not is another matter, because sometimes ego can mean that we attach to gossip and so on. But at some subconscious level, people will absolutely know when someone is being authentic or not, and actually who they're more likely to connect with in their version of truth. I think we do see that clearer now. I'm not sure whether it's a social media thing and people are, you know, being more able to be out there, or whether it's a collective raising in frequency or what. But I think yes.
There are people that are doing it massively and waking up, but they're also, like, you've got to look at the people that do want to wake up, but may kind of dip their toe into the waking up kind of pond for a little while and then kind of come back because it's a little bit uncomfortable. And then there's also people that will never wake up no matter what you show them, no matter what you show them.
Yeah, and you know, the thing about that, I think, and we're going to wrap this up in a minute, guys. The thing about that, I think, is the more we all try to be our true selves and really commit to that, actually, we don't need to convince other people to do that. What happens by being your unapologetic self is you role model certain behaviors, and that naturally pulls other people up with you. And you know, I have real deep faith around that. There's I've seen it happen on many occasions, where if you just are, you know, like Paul says, follow your soul, follow your heart and not the crowd, people will elevate themselves naturally because you have raised the bar in what it's like to be a human being.
And on the downside, you will really antagonize people as well, because the more that you progress, the more that you develop. It's kind of like the crab mentality, that if you've got like a pot of crabs there, if one one scurries over and puts its claw over the side to try and get out, the other crabs don't try to get out as well. They don't try and help the other crab out. They latch on and they pull it down by nature. They pull it back into the pot.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's like there is this crab mentality that no matter what you do, you will gravitate the right people towards you, and there will be, you know, a better caliber of person, a better quality of person that comes to you, as opposed to quantity. You know, quality will always beat quantity, but then it's like on the other side, and this is what people don't sort of realize, and it's why it kind of impacts them so much, that, you know, there's so much emphasis put on, listen, taking a positive out of a negative. But what you've got to realize is, listen, we are dealing with energy, and energy doesn't go anywhere. It's just how you channel it. So it's like whenever there is a positive situation, it does bring certain negatives. So when you are developing and when you are progressing and you are changing as people, guess what? You are going to annoy people, you are going to aggravate people, and you are going to upset people as well. So don't kind of like just ignore that fact, because that will happen. And when it happens, it's not a case of if, but when it happens, yes, it still impacts you. It might knock you back, but it won't knock you down, if you know what I mean. So once you acknowledge it and know that it's coming, that even when you do develop, that you will upset certain people, you will aggravate certain people, that it's not as powerful when it does come along.
Hashtag crab mentality. That's brilliant. Well, I'm going to round this up now, guys. I'm going to ask you very, very quickly for a sort of 1 or 2 liner, a bit of advice, people. You know, you're sort of rounding up thoughts, almost like your Jerry Springer thought for the day. And, you know, something, maybe a bit of advice or a light bulb moment or a thing that's resonated for you from this conversation, just to round us up. So let's go Jamie first.
I'll go, listen, if you do it with the best intentions, and you know you're doing it for the right reasons, you're progressing yourself, you're developing yourself, you can see change, you can see improvement. Listen, no matter what you do, you're going to be damned if you do and damned if you do, damned if you don't. So listen, do it anyway. Do it anyway. But as long as you're doing it for the right reasons.
Love that. And not being a crab. Love it. Unless you're the crab that's trying to crawl out.
And don't catch them. Don't be one and don't catch them.
Going back to the dating game thing. Monsieur Harry, what about you?
I suppose 2 things really from the conversation. One, whether that's advice or just, you know, observation, but a couple of things that I said really were, for me, being unapologetically ourselves, for me, that's been the best version of me. So aim to be the best version of yourself rather than just, you know, because you can be unapologetically the worst part of yourself as well. So, you know, I'll just focus on the best version of yourself. And then I suppose this other phrase that came to me was this: your choice is follow the crowd or follow the soul. You know, your choice really. Most of us won't die unhappy if we followed the soul. We might die unhappy if we've just followed the crowd. So, you know, follow the soul would be my finger moment.
Follow your soul, don't be an arsehole.
That's it.
Yay!
Your soul, not our soul.
Bring on that meme.
Love it.
Nadia, what about you, mate?
I would say just be brave and find a safe space in which to grow. And obviously, I think, you know, without sort of selling anything too much, the fact that people might be here listening to this and watching this, you know, you're already in that place. So just be brave and find a safe place and find your tribe and people who resonate on your vibe. It's all good.
Really good. Love that.
The people who play your tune, who play your music. There we go.
Yeah, baby. Mr. Griswood.
I think kind of, you know, for me, it's, you know, it's that being prepared to listen, being prepared to consider, being prepared to kind of, you know, think, review, and sort of, you know, and accept as well. I mean, so, you know, you can accept other people's opinions. You don't have to agree with them, but I mean, so, you know, you can listen to them, you can accept them, you can consider them as well. And so, you know, maybe you want to take them on board. I mean, that's entirely your choice, but I mean, that's kind of, you know, it goes back to kind of being true to you. If somebody says something that sort of, you know, you think, you know what, that resonates, I agree with that. There's nothing wrong with that. You know, but don't follow the crowd for the sake of it. Follow it because it's what you genuinely believe.
Oh, I like that. And, you know, coincidental if it happens to be what the crowd thinks, as long as you're authentically, you know, blind. I think I would end with probably something very much in alignment with that, Phil, and that is with a Stephen Covey quote, one of my favorites, which is to seek first to understand and then to be understood. And, you know, I think this leads on to a topic perhaps we will discuss more in depth another day, something that Paul and I talk about a lot, which is how uncomfortable it is, and yet how important it can sometimes be to sit on the fence and listen to what people have got to say, observe, allow, accept, and you know, just see what else there is out there that you can learn from. And even if that way of being jars with you, to open your heart up. And, you know, I think what you've all said has really resonated with me about the opening up of the possibilities that we can have by hanging out with people that maybe aren't our usual cup of tea. So thank you very much, Master Rebels. Thank you to everybody who has watched, whether it is in the future or in the past or in the present.
On catch-up TV. Are we on Dave now?
Exactly.
Deja vu.
Channel 203 on Freeview.
One day, people, one day we will have Rebel TV.
Yeah,
Wow,
man.
that'd be cool, wouldn't it?
Imagine. So if you're watching on replay, please tell us, put in your comments, ask us questions. Maybe if you've got a topic that you would like us to discuss next time, that would be amazing. And I'm going to upload this to YouTube. If you're not already subscribed to Chief Rebel YouTube channel, you need to be. And bring your friends into Rebels and Rule Breakers, please, as well. So I'm going to unlive us now. Thank you again, everybody, and have a bloody lovely evening. Chief Rebel and Master Rebel, Rebel Squad out. Keep reveling.